Hi, I'm Wayne Tuttle, and welcome to Chasing Legends. Welcome back to Chasing Legends. I'm your host, Wayne Tuttle. Before you get much further, please hit subscribe. We always appreciate building up our subscribers, and leave a comment if you like. Hit the notification bell so you know when next video is up. So this week we go back into the storyline. Go back to 1984. I had just finished up working on some apartments on the I-17 for the local people here. It's Peoria or Cactus on the south side there. There were some apartments. And I've been working there, and I got picked up over across from Glendale Community College, working on the apartments south of there, doing trim. I was doing trim carpentry work there, and I got picked up there. I worked there for a period of time, and back during that period in the 80s, you would move from job site to job site. So I picked up that job. I'm working there. That was actually the place I put the spike through my foot. First time I ever put a spike through my foot. I've done it 3 times, so completely through the entire foot. That was the first time my right foot I did that. Going back to work the next day, it just was a hole. Get a tetanus shot, wrap it up. Had to get a new boot though, because anytime it rained, the water got in the boot. But anyhow, going past that, I was working at that job site, and before I'd actually put the spike in my foot at that job site, there was a guy there, and his name was Wheeler. Everybody called him Wheeler. I don't know. I don't know what his first name was. We can call him Jim, John, anything. But his name was Wheeler. And we'd sit around at lunch and working in the same general area, and everybody sit around. And one day we were talking about something about going somewhere or doing something. And someone was talking to me, and he came over, and he kind of got in the conversation. And he asked me where I'd been, and I told him I think at the time I'd probably been up in LaBarge or somewhere like that, the LaBarge Box or Coffee Flat. And he said, "Do you know the Superstitions?" And I said, "Yeah, I kind of know the area. I go out there quite a bit." And wasn't a treasure hunting kind of thing. He was asking me kind of about particular areas and stuff. And he said, well, there was a spot him and some buddies had went out to. And in this spot, he said, "Do you know where north of the ranch?" And he started kind of describing stuff. And I said, "Well, that's Barkley Basin out by the Quarter Circle U." I knew where he was talking. He said, "Well, there's a spot out there, a hill." And him and some buddies had run into a spot, and there was a bit of circle of rocks. And they got up there, and they started scraping some dirt off, and they hit some wood. And like someone had laid some wood, but when they started pulling the wood back, there was more dirt and rocks, and they didn't get any further. They dug probably a foot or so down. And he said, "This is a number of years ago." And he said, "I've always been meaning to get back there and check that out." And I got kind of a little interested in it. Because, like, you know, who knows what it could have been buried there. It was kind of odd with the piece of wood or whatever. And he talked about it. He kind of talked about the place, said it was a little hill. And in the basin there's a few kind of mounds and stuff. But he said it was up on a hill. It was kind of a snake-shaped kind of little ridge thing. And he said it was down on the eastern end of it. There was a little flat spot, a little tree on the end. And by that tree, you'd see there was a nice flat spot. And he said that's where they had been. And I know he said it was northeast of the ranch and stuff. Well, it's kind of odd because, you know, we didn't think much of it. And I talked to him, and he said, I think it was probably after a week or so. We sat at lunch, and he'd bring it up a little. And he said, we ought to all go out there and kind of dig that thing up sometime. And we all kind of were like, that would be cool. Go out there and just kind of like, all of us were kind of desert rats and stuff. We all meet up out there. And he said it wasn't very far. You could park. He said there used to be able to drive the road out there, but he didn't know if they'd close that off and stuff. And I told him, well, most of that's still open, but I don't think there's much vehicle traffic in that area. It's because it's on the ranch. But I said, yeah, most of that area was roads at one time. And he said, yeah, that was, he said we drove pretty close up to it at the time. But so we were, kind of the talk of that. So then he quit showing up at work. And, a few weeks went by, and we thought it was kind of odd. And someone there finally brought up, we ought to go check that place out because he's not coming back. And is it really are we doing anything wrong? Because he kind of told us about where it is and stuff. And since you know the area kind of, why don't we go out and look around that area and see if there is a hill out there, see if he was BSing us or not. So we all decide, okay, Saturday, let's just go out there, grab a 12-pack of beer, throw it in a cooler, and drive out there and just walk out and see if we can kind of see the particular spot and if there's anything to it. So we went out, got out, and I remember we walked across, put beers in our packs, walked out, found this one hill, and it kind of seemed to be lined up with where he kind of talked from the ranch and kind of this road, and you could see the remains of an old road. It's still probably there today. They just don't use it really anymore because it works its way up probably towards Coffee Flats or Miner's Needle and stuff. But there were these old roads. So we kind of recognized there, it looked kind of good. Got up on this thing. We brought a couple shovels. We thought, well, let's start digging here and see if we find anything, because he said, So we started digging, and someone from the ranch had been out there, and I guess they'd seen us wandering across or whatever, saw the vehicles and realized we were out there, we're making noise. And this guy pulled up, and it wasn't Archie Johnson. I don't know who was out there at that time and all. I don't know if Archie, but it wasn't Archie. I would have remembered Archie going back and stuff. But whoever was working out the ranch came out, and the truck pulled up. And what the hell are you guys doing up there? And of course we're bright, so we said digging, and didn't think there was a problem with digging for whatever reason. And he said, "Why don't you guys get down out of there? What the hell, made you guys want to start digging up there?" So we told him the story. There's this guy who told us this story at work. We decided to come out, and this looked like the spot and all this. And he looks at us and laughs. And he said, "There was a fella out here a couple weeks ago, but he was digging on that hill over there." And we looked over, and there's a hill over there, a little hill, a little smaller. And we kind of let, And he said, "Yeah, but I same thing with him. I told him get himself out of there." He started digging, and I got him and told him to get the hell out of here. So we're like, "Okay, thanks." So we kind of waited till he left, and then we decided, well, let's go over and look at where this other spot was digging, because he kind of described Wheeler a little. So we're thinking it could be coincidence, but it seemed odd there'd be someone on a little hill digging. So we went over this little hill, and sure enough, there was an old shovel sitting there, and there was an open hole. There was a bunch of rocks around this hole, like he had described, decent-sized rocks, like it'd been a big fire pit, but it wasn't. And there was an empty hole there, and there was a piece of plywood probably about this big laying off to the side. And so I don't know what happened to Wheeler. I have no clue whatsoever, but he did go out there, and whatever was in that hole or whatever he decided he wanted to get out, he must have went and dug it out, and then no trace of him. Never saw the guy again. We always talked about it as, the great imagination is like he really found something good. Good chance he didn't find anything at all. But that's the story of Wheeler and out in the Superstitions 1984. So thanks for watching. Kind of keep it after last week, kind of running long. Keep it a bit shorter. Here soon we're going to come up kind of on the anniversary of the Legends shows. Maybe we'll do some, talk about the Legends shows kind of versus my own thoughts and feelings as we filmed it, more than what you actually see on television. A lot of the stuff that changed and happened, maybe we'll kind of run into the pilot, and then we'll run into the 6 episodes. We'll do some Chasing Legends, kind of little background and backdrop of what happened during each one, even though they did kind of like sometimes overlap. So might be something to look forward to, but we're not there yet because we're not to February. So we'll have a couple other things in between there, but something to look forward to. Please hit subscribe like I mentioned. Leave a comment if you have a comment, and we got our t-shirts over there, Legends Superstition Mountains, and the Dutch Hunter Rendezvous shirts. Always more than happy. We keep the price down. Pick one up in black or gray, long sleeve, short sleeve, or whatever it can be. This is Wayne Tuttle, and thank you, and take care.